Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome. My name's Alison Stewart and I'm your host of the second series of FAR's Cut the Crop. Today I've got Trevor James from AgResearch and we're going to be talking about Velvetleaf. Welcome, Trevor.
Hello, Alison.
Yeah. Now, Velvetleaf is a sort of warm zone crop, weed, whatever. And it came into New Zealand in 2016 and actually was a lot more widespread than we anticipated. Why do you think that we found it in so many different regions? And is it really as widespread as we imagine from the point of view of its seriousness? And you've been involved in a project that's been looking at the biology of this weed. Tell us a little bit about sort of what the project is and what you were trying to achieve.
Okay, so let's start with where it came from, which is Southern Europe. That's where we sourced the infestation from. And we quickly looked at the literature and found that it was actually moving north from there, as far north as Germany. Because it's progressing up through Europe, we thought that the climate might match in New Zealand. And so we have grown Velvetleaf in 5 locations in New Zealand. In Hamilton and Palmerston North in the North Island, and then Lincoln, Dunedin, and Invercargill in the South Island. And what we found was very interesting. In the North Island, it grows and seeds profusely, up to over 30,000 seeds per plant. In the South Island, it grew like that at Lincoln, but in Dunedin, we only got about a quarter of the seed production, and in Invercargill, we didn't get any. And that's really good news for us.
So what does this mean? It means in Southland, even though it's there, it's not likely to spread and create as much of a problem as an invasive weed as it has got the potential to do up in the northern parts of the South Island and the North Island.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're spot on there. Although there will be microclimates, we've got to still be vigilant, but we are hoping that it is not going to be much of a weed in the Deep South.
Yeah, which is great for the Deep South, but what about the rest of the country? I mean, obviously, we want to try and minimise the impact that this invasive weed is going to create. I mean, let's talk a little bit about what impact it could create, and if it did become widespread, what sort of crops and land environments is it going to be most of a problem in?
It will be a problem in any crop that's sown in the spring or summer. Its germination period is principally in December. So early sown crops might get ahead of it, and that is one strategy we can look at. But crops that are sown in spring, early summer are really going to have the potential to be heavily invaded with velvetleaf.
Oh, so what does the research that you've done tell us about the best way to try and manage it in these different parts of New Zealand?
There's several philosophies or strategies you can have to manage it. In the North Island, where it's probably going to be at its most competitive and at its worst, it's hard to eliminate. We have got some chemical controls in some crops, but there's always going to be escapes, which we want to get on top of. And so where we have infested sites, we're still regularly looking for those. We have the use of a sniffer dog, which can smell it out in the crops, and that's really, really good because a sniffer dog can cover a lot more ground with his nose than a human can with their eyes. Okay. And so that's really positive, and that's fantastic for those farmers that want to find the odd plant in their crop, pull it out so that they can market their crop. Apart from that, it is just keep on top of it. The other strategy or another strategy is simply to try and park it, if you like, put the paddock, the infestation, under pasture. where if it does come up, it's very easily seen from a distance and can be pulled out. It's a tall growing plant, so it's immediately visible in a pasture. Or else we can try a crop strategy where we've got a full-blown crop over that summer period that's the competition isn't really going to allow much velvet leaf to come through.
So how long would you have to be in pasture for until you could get sort of, any seed that was in the soil sort of dying off?
That's not really going to happen. The seed will live for 50, 100 years in pasture. It's really, as I said, just a parking strategy until we can come up with more science, better science to give farmers more of a hand and a better solution. But at the moment, we are showing that it persists in the seed bank for a long time. We have a site in the North Island where we've been regularly cultivating it for 5 years now, and we're still getting the same amount of seed come up every year. It's quite a dense infestation. Normally, if you have a look at a seed bank, you would see numbers decline over the years. You get a big flush and then less and less and less every year. With velvet leaf, we're finding exactly the same numbers every year. And that's a bit of a worry in some respects, that it'll just keep on going. But at the same time, it might mean that there's an abrupt end to it. But there's enough seed there to go for 10 or 20 years at the rate we're measuring it.
So do most farmers know what it looks like? Do you think we've got a good awareness out there of what velvet leaf is?
I would hope that there's a good awareness out there, that it is a very distinctive plant. And if they don't exactly know what it looks like, I would hope that they would have their eyes open just looking for odd-looking plants. Velvet leaf has a very large leaf. It's a heart-shaped leaf, and they come out horizontal to the ground like an umbrella, and the big leaves can be nearly the size of a dinner plate on a mature plant, bigger than leaves of any other weed or most crops. So it's very distinctive. And all a farmer has to do is look and see, oh, there's a weed that I'm not familiar with. What is it? And ask somebody. So there's people at FAR that are qualified to recognise it. There's MPI people that will know what it is. There's always people about that will tell you what it is. All you got to do is ask them.
Yeah. So MPI obviously have been actively involved in this sort of program since it first, became sort of recognised in New Zealand. So are they overseeing any sort of, tracing program?
Yeah, MPI's got 3 people on the ground, one in the North Island based in the Waikato, who's doing an excellent job of tracing. And then there's 2 in the South Island, one in Canterbury, one in Southland, but they have a lot of ground to cover. And so it is basically back to the individual farmer to spot and look for anything that's unusual and report it. That's the most eyes we can have, is the farmer looking out all the time.
Yeah. And you say, to spot it and to report it. And that's the key thing, isn't it? That we want to know exactly sort of, where it is. So as much as you want them to remove it, you want them to report that they found it.
We want them to report it, because then we can go back there and see how big the infestation is. We can bring the sniffer dog in and see if there's any in neighbouring fields and roundabout, and really get a good idea of how important the infestation is. It could be that it's just a oncer, and so it could have moved in with some cultivation equipment or harvesting equipment. It might be a lone plant. If it's a lone plant and we get it early, fantastic news. If it's not, we'd really like to know. And then the MPI people or the regional council sit down with a grower and design a farm management plan that they can work with. So the idea is not to put them in handcuffs or a straitjacket, but say, okay, what do you normally do? All right, if you want to do this, this is what you need to do. Spray with this herbicide, check the crop at this time. It's not meant to be restrictive. It's meant to be helping the farmer to overcome this horrible problem.
Yeah. So it's been in New Zealand since 2016. Are have we been doing research trials to see what chemicals work best against it? I mean, can we get some recommendations out to growers of what chemicals might be the most appropriate to use?
Yes, it's a difficult weed to control. The worst weeds are all difficult weeds to control. But it's a member of the mallow family, the same as hollyhock, believe it or not. And as a member of the mallow family, we do have one chemical in particular, which is active against the mallows. And that chemical, sold as hammer or nail, really is a nail in the coffin to it. It's not a chemical to be used alone, but to be added to your normal herbicide regime. So it's okay to use it with a hormone. It's okay to use it with other chemicals. And you really just put it in very small amounts just to give the normal chemical regime a boost to kill this weed of the mallow family, velvetleaf.
So what's happening this year with this sort of the tracing project? I mean, do we just have our 3 MPI people plus growers, or have we expanded it or reduced it? Where are we?
So at the moment, it is the 3 people from MPI plus farmers and whatever else we can do about it. We are putting on field days. We are doing awareness programs, and MPI is picking up the pace a little bit too again now. And basically, the message is out there. It's a matter of, unfortunately, growers have a lot on their plates. They're very busy people. And this is a bad problem, but it is one among many problems. And so it is hard to get that toehold in a busy cropping situation. But we would really ask that they do at least have a look at a simple bit of literature that's out there or online or available from far, and just get to see this weed, with its big leaves, its yellow flowers, tall growing. And if we can get it before it seeds, you've saved yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So are we making progress? I mean, we're 5 years down the track. Do you think that we're containing it or minimizing the potential sort of like expansion of it?
I believe that we have contained it. A little bit more questionable in the North Island, where it has been for a few more years, but the track and tracing up there has possibly come to the extent of the infestation at long last. And the farmers there are very, very cooperative. And so we hopefully have contained it there. As I say, a lot more growers in the South Island potentially have it. And so there's a lot more properties that have to be searched, and more than 2 people can look for. We are not getting very many new reports of new infestations at all. So if I could say, I think we hopefully are on top of it. I would say that, but I don't want to breed complacency.
No. Yeah.
That's the last thing. It's a weed where the seed can stay around dormant for a long time and then just pop up. So we can't afford to be complacent, but I would be positive and say in the South Island, I believe we are got a good shot at getting rid of it. And in the North Island, they're making a sterling effort. And if the growers there continue to be as cooperative as they are in the long run, but it will be a long fight in the North Island.
Yeah. But positive enough so that people feel that it's worth the effort to go out and try and contain it. Because it's always a problem that when something becomes too widespread, people just think, oh, well, there's no point, it's just going to happen. Whereas this one, we actually, with a bit of extra vigilance, we've got the opportunity to make a difference.
Yes, and we need to make the difference because it is a highly competitive weed. It's got a big seed. It'll outgrow most crops. It'll get established. It'll shield them and hide them with their big leaves, protect them from the sun. It'll just interfere with everything. When it gets to high populations, it's very, very difficult to manage. And in maize, we've got more herbicides than any other crop in New Zealand that we can use, and we still can't eradicate it every year in every crop. So vigilance is there, but be positive about it. Just know what it looks like. Inform your staff, particularly during harvest or, scouting your paddocks. But by the same token, I think we should be doing that for any new weeds. There's always the potential of new weeds to come into New Zealand.
Yeah.
And we should be looking for them. This one came in, we caught it early. Let's fight hard.
Yeah. Excellent. Good take-home message. Thanks very much, Trevor. And thank you to the listeners. Have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.